Hi, sixth period. The last time I read, Alistair threw Kip's crutch over the bridge, and they were kind of arguing. And Kip walked off and walked back to the house. Chapter 43 is Body of Evidence. Before Molly talked to Master Windsor, there was one thing she wanted to do. She crept downstairs to her old bedroom and closed the door behind her. It had been less than a week since she had last been inside this room, and yet it appeared to her a foreign place. She looked at the ugly black roots pushing through the ceiling and walls and shuddered, thinking of how she had once slept soundly in that bed. Not too soundly, she reminded herself. She walked to the wardrobe and opened the doors. Below empty pegs sat the old sea chest she had brought with her from home. She raised the lid with her feet, as one might lift a rock with a snake underneath. The trunk was now empty, except for the small bundle of letters from her parents. Just seeing them made her heart beat faster. She did not have an exact plan as to what to do with the letters, but she knew she couldn't leave them at the house. The idea of some other person coming upon them and reading them was too much to bear. She knelt and picked up the letters, and even now, even knowing they were not real, she felt a longing to read them one last time. She held the envelope to her nose, savoring the salt water air. Her parents may have been gone, but a part of them still lived inside the letters, their voices woven into each word. She stuffed the envelopes into her pocket and went upstairs to find Master Windsor. Bertrand was, as she expected, sitting vigil at his wife's bedside. Since the collapse, he had spent hours this way, clutching Constance's hand, quietly reciting stories of their early marriage, courtship follies and wedding day jitters, and the thrill of early parenthood. Molly noticed that when he told these stories, when he was dwelling on a happier past, he did not seem to stutter as much. Master Windsor, Molly said softly. If she startled him, he did not show it. The prodigal maid returns. He spoke without looking up. I fear you'd run off with the doctor. His voice had the drained quality of someone too exhausted to fight. Molly shifted her weight. She wished she had more time to think about what to say. The fact is, sir, my brother and me cannot work here no more. I think you know why. I've come for our things, and then we're moving on. His face twitched. You're leaving us? This house is a bad place, sir. Having grown up here, you know that better than anyone. She gave him a meaningful look. You can't quit. He stood, pushing his chair back from the bed. My family needs you. It's already done, sir, and it's for your family that I'm up here talking to you now. She took a step closer, fixing eyes on him. You should come with us, all of you, tonight. Impossible. He paced in front of her. Connie is ill, my associates are coming tomorrow, and I still cannot pay them. So leave before they get here. You're not listening, he snapped. I need to stay here with the tree, if I can just get enough from it. He held up the key to the green door, clutching it in his hand. Molly could see that Master Windsor was deaf to mere arguments. He needed proof. She rushed forward and snatched the key from his grasp. Give that back. Molly was already halfway down the hallway. You'll get it back, sir, but before you do, there's something you need to see. She marched downstairs, a protesting Master Windsor in tow. Kip was waiting for them outside, rake in hand, standing next to a pile of leaves. He was balanced on his right leg, and Molly wondered why he wasn't using his crutch. Did you find him? She said. Aye, Kip hopped back, revealing the cleared grave, but it ain't pretty. Molly led Master Windsor to the edge of the hole, which was no longer empty. Dr. Crouch's corpse lay crammed into the narrow trench. His face was bloodless, his eyes wide open in the look of abject terror. A mesh of thin roots covered his entire body, swallowing him. Good heavens! Bertrand looked up like he might be sick. Molly knew better than to prod him or speak in any way. She waited. After a long moment, he turned to her. Did he suffer? It was fast. He didn't even have time to call out. You should thank him, Kip said. That grave was meant for you. Molly shot her brother a look. This was no time for malice. She took a step closer to Master Windsor, meeting his eye. The doctor was murdered, sir, in cold blood, and I think you know what it was that done it. Master Windsor did not answer, but she could see in his face that he did know. This is bad, he said. This is very, very bad. He stepped back from the grave, wringing his pale hands. Dr. Crouch was an important man, a gentleman. He will be missed. There could be an inquiry, an investigation, even prison. There's more at stake than prison, sir. She nodded to Kip. Show him the rest. Kip proceeded to rake the leaves from the remaining holes. Bertrand watched, but said nothing. Finally, Kip reached the last of the graves, the smallest one. Bertrand stared at it, one hand over his mouth. It's penny size, he whispered. There's one for each of us, sir. The tree's waiting until we're too sick to move, too sick to fight back, and from the look of you and your family, that won't be long. No, no, no. Master Windsor shook his head from side to side like a child in denial. It doesn't make sense. He turned toward the tree. It's not the way it works. The doctor must have done something. He must have provoked it or threatened it. His voice fell silent as he saw the giant branch that had broken from the trunk. Who did this? He said, his voice colder. It was an accident. Kip leaned on the rake. The doctor was helping us make a trap and... Bertrand spun around. He what? A new panic flushed his face. If you hurt the tree, if you even talk of hurting it, then what? Molly cut him off. We end up like Crouch? Quick or slow, it's the same end for every person who comes here. She could feel her blood rising, her heart pounding in her ears. I know you think your tree's a miracle, sir, but the same tree puts bodies in the ground. She gestured toward the hills covering the lawn. Bertrand turned around, staring at the graves, his lips parted. Molly could not tell from his expression if he had known before that moment what lay beneath those hills. She watched his shining gaze dart from mound to mound, as if searching for something. She suddenly realized that not all of the bodies on the ground were strangers, not to him at least. Your ma and dad, he said. They're out there, aren't they? I never saw it. He shook his head at a loss. On the night when it happened, I was in my room. I remember hearing my parents arguing in the hall. My father had changed his mind about the tree. He thought it was making us sick somehow. He wanted to cut it down or poison it. I don't remember, but all I do remember is the storm. He set his jaw. There was no rain or thunder, only wind. It shook the entire house, like it was inside the walls. I could hear my father shouting downstairs, and this inhuman sound, like someone or something was down there with him. My mother came into my room. Her eyes, she was so frightened. She pulled me from bed and told me to run and never come back. I was young. I didn't know what to do. His voice was shaking, but not with fear. She helped me climb through the window, and I fell to the ground. I called to her to jump, but she was gone. He stared into the empty air, his dark eyes shining. Molly at once recognized the horror on his face. It was the expression she had worn when her parents pushed her into the lifeboat and disappeared. It was the shame of someone who had survived. She cleared her throat. If you hadn't a run, you'd be buried there with 'em, she said. Your ma, she wanted you to live, to eat and sleep and breathe and laugh, to meet your wife, to have your children. Running's not a bad thing, sir, so long as you're running towards something good. Bertrand's face crumbled. He sank to the lawn, his head in his hands. We can't leave. This house is all I have left. There's no money, no credit, nothing. And Connie, she's too sick to travel. Molly stepped closer. The creature that buried your folks is coming back, sir, tonight. It's time to choose. She held out the old key. You can take this, go back in the house, and wait for your miracle, or you can come with us and live. Which one do you think he's going to decide? I'm going to stop there, and I'll be back tomorrow. Have a good day.